New York City swelters under a brutal summer sun, turning every surface into a mirror of heat and frustration. Garbage piles up on corners, subway vents spew out stale air, and people drip sweat just standing still. The oppressive heat weighs heavy, making tempers flare, and the city feels like it's ready to explode. Meanwhile, police officers secure a crime scene, hinting that the rising tension has finally boiled over into violence. A horrifying scene unfolds as a victim, skinned alive and hung upside down, is left on display. A gruesome sight far different from the usual street crimes. Detective LaPearl calmly surveys the brutality while crunching ice, noting to herself that this killing wasn't fast or careless. Instead, it was deliberate, meticulous, and disturbingly personal, suggesting a far more chilling threat. LaPearl and a crime scene investigator examine the gruesome sight of 3 skinned bodies hanging from the ceiling. The CSI, while snapping photos of the scene, suggests it might be drug-related or a vigilante act to clean up the neighborhood. But LaPearl points out that the brutal skinning doesn't follow any kind of logical criminal pattern. Deep down, she knows they're dealing with something far stranger than an ordinary crime. She methodically examines the bodies, noting that while this wasn't a robbery, something important was stolen. Each body is missing a different piece: a jaw, a rib, a finger. As she crunches her ice and pieces it together, the CSI asks what it could mean. LaPearl concludes grimly that the killer isn't random. They're a sick, methodical trophy hunter, carefully selecting their grisly prizes. LaPearl continues questioning who she thinks is the CSI, unaware something feels slightly off. Suddenly, the real crime scene team arrives, explaining they were delayed in traffic. Realizing she's been talking to an impostor, LaPearl questions who it was, and we see Peter Parker, now suited up as Spider-Man, swinging away into the city in a rush to get the murder scene information to his boss, J. Jonah Jameson. He believes he has some big breaking news for Mr. Jameson. As Spider-Man races through the city, he juggles a phone call with a furious Jameson who's demanding results. Jameson rants about not wanting good news, only stories that drive clicks and ad revenue, while accusing Peter of delivering fluff in the past. Peter maneuvers through traffic and rooftops trying to stay focused, assuring Jameson that he's bringing the real deal this time, the gruesome murder information Jameson needs. On the way to the Daily Bugle, Spider-Man spots a violent robbery unfolding nearby. Realizing he can't ignore it, he quickly tells Jameson that it might take him a little longer to deliver the story. Meanwhile, the masked robbers fire wildly and make a frantic getaway, screeching off in a stolen van with Spider-Man now forced to change course. He swings ahead, planning to cut off the fleeing robbers at the next block. But he doesn't anticipate the chaos of an open fire hydrant, which has turned the street into a makeshift water park filled with playing children. As the getaway van barrels forward, it heads straight toward the unsuspecting kids, raising the stakes in an instant. As the van speeds toward the kids, Spider-Man swings in at the last second, webbing them all to safety. With a quick apology for interrupting their fun, he pulls them out of harm's way just in time. Meanwhile, the robbers continue their reckless escape, unaware that Spider-Man is still hot on their trail. The robbers arrive at their dimly lit hideout, thinking they're safe and ready to divide the stolen cash. One of them lays out the plan, split the money quickly, goes separate ways, and stays silent for 2 weeks. But as he talks, he starts to realize something is horribly wrong. His crew has been silently picked off, their bodies lying gruesomely around him. The last robber spins wildly, trying to aim his gun at an unseen threat. Desperate, he offers to cut a deal, hoping to survive. But from the shadows, the true danger strikes. Vicious claws grab his face, and in one brutal motion begin tearing his skin off, leaving him no chance to escape. The robber lets out a terrified scream as his skin is violently torn away. Before he can react, a long, deadly blade shoots from the killer's forearm and impales him straight through his back and out of his chest. In an instant, the life drains from his body, leaving him motionless and defeated. The Yautja stands over the robber's body, holding the freshly skinned face like a gruesome trophy. With methodical precision, it stretches the bloody mask over its own face, blending the stolen skin with its jagged, spiked armor. The scene oozes with a chilling sense of ritualistic pride. Spider-Man arrives at the robber's hideout and quickly realizes the brutal killings are connected to the earlier skinned bodies Detective LaPearl was investigating. Horrified, he updates Mr. Jameson, letting him know this new scene is far worse than anyone expected. Peter, stunned by the gruesome sight of the skinned and mutilated robbers hanging from chains, tells Mr. Jameson over the phone that they're dealing with a full-blown serial killer. As the brutal summer heat bears down on the city and stresses the power grid, Peter and Mr. Jameson debate how the story about the murders should be handled. Peter wants to encourage vigilance without causing panic, while Jameson demands more fear-mongering. Suddenly, the building's power goes out, leaving everyone in the newsroom in darkness. Meanwhile, Mary Jane rides the crowded train, quietly reading a book, when suddenly the lights go out, plunging the entire car into darkness. Annoyed but unfazed, MJ reacts with a sarcastic, "Seriously?" as the other passengers start to murmur in confusion. As the train sits stalled in the dark, panic spreads among the passengers. A woman suffering from claustrophobia begins to break down, overwhelmed by the heat and darkness. MJ stays calm, gently trying to reassure her by reminding her of the open space outside the train. She encourages the woman to stay calm by focusing on the outside world instead of their trapped situation. As the woman tries to steady herself, she notices a figure outside the train. MJ reassures her it's probably a transit worker fixing the tracks. But then she spots an eerie, menacing face watching them from the darkness. It's the Yautja, and it violently smashes through the train's window, lunging straight at MJ and the terrified woman, leaving them screaming in horror. Back at the Bugle, Peter and Mr. Jameson quickly adapt to the blackout, with Peter suggesting they go old school and print physical newspapers to get the news out. They fire up the backup generator, determined to hand out papers on the street if they have to, just to keep the Daily Bugle's voice alive. The Bugle staff flood the streets, shouting and selling papers to keep the public informed during the blackout. People crowd around fountains to stay cool and pass the time, while Mr. Jameson personally pitches the headline about a serial killer on the loose trying to spark urgency and boost sales. Mr. Jameson aggressively tries to upsell the paper by warning people their loved ones could die if they don't stay informed. When a customer hesitates at the $10 price, Jameson's fear-mongering pushes another person to snatch the paper right out of his hand. Detective LaPearl confronts Mr. Jameson, revealing she took the paper and demands Peter Parker come in for questioning over his unauthorized crime scene photos. Meanwhile, Spider-Man quickly swings away to avoid getting tangled up even further. Spider-Man sneaks into MJ's apartment, calling out for her as he notices the place is empty and quiet. Meanwhile, back at the train, a scream pierces the darkness and we see a bloodied arm and MJ's book on the ground, leaving it unclear if MJ has become the Yautja's next victim. As a Daily Bugle employee sells newspapers, two thugs try to rob him at gunpoint. Before they can follow through, a mystery shooter blasts the gun right out of the robber's hand, saving the Bugle employee just in time. The mystery shooter then charges toward the robbers. One thug tries to react, but gets an arrow shot straight through his forehead. The shooter calmly warns the Daily Bugle employee that the city isn't safe at night, especially now, and then casually pulls the bloody arrow out of the dead man's skull. The shooter is revealed to be Kraven the Hunter, towering over the terrified Daily Bugle employee. With a menacing grin and a warning to run, Kraven prompts the employee to tell him more about the predator now lurking in the city.